Wholeness, beautiful beings. Welcome to Notes of Nara. My name is Naja Rashida, and may this message find you well and whole. Today's topic, we're going to talk about identifying the sins of the father and the wounds of the mother. I believe about 2 years ago, or maybe over a year ago, I made a video discussing this, sins of the father and wounds of the mother. But I want to get a little bit deeper into it. Because I'm not the same person I was a year and a half ago, right? I really am not. I'm in a very different state of mind, state of being. And so this phrase came to me earlier today and during this afternoon. And it's so important when we're doing our shadow work to identify what the wounds of the mother is and what the sins of the father is, because what they are, because those are the things that flows through our veins. I believe in multi-generational curses in the bloodline and in the lineage, and if it's not addressed properly, it will somehow live through you or be passed through you, right? So what are the sins of the father and wounds of the mother? I'll get a little personal here. So I've been doing some inner work with my inner child, and it's part of my shadow that what my shadow has revealed to me through my inner child is some of 3 of my deepest wounds that I haven't really addressed in a long time. So I'll share a little bit of insight on this. So I'm on my spiritual path. The past couple of years, I've felt just this need to be closer to the feminine, activating the divine feminine within me, the sacred mother, the womb mother. I would say in general, my personality as an independent single woman, mature woman, middle-aged woman in our current cultural society that we have, women tend to be independent single women tend to be a bit more masculine than those that take a more traditional path. And I say that to where we are very ambitious focused. We're very focused on career, building something. We're all about self-improvement, self-empowerment, sovereignty, autonomy, financial freedom and literacy, focusing on our wealth and our health. We take advantage of the time and the freedom that we have being unmarried and child-free, right? So there's that masculine, dominant essence, the masculine essence, because both men and women embody both, right? At certain times, if a woman feels incredibly unsafe and she's alone, that masculine trait, that masculine essence is going to be a bit more active. And so in the past couple of years, with where I'm at in my life, I just feel this call to get more connected and grounded with the feminine essence in me. And that's becoming more and more balanced. I'm not just like masculine, feminine, like it's not all imbalanced anymore. It's becoming more unified. And so with that, I recently this week had quite an awakening, or I guess a revelation, if you will. Oftentimes when relationships don't go as we want them to, when friendships don't go as we want them to, or career choices or creative pursuits don't go as planned, we externalize our qualms and our issues and conflicts, and the victim archetype is activated. Why did this happen to me? Why did this go wrong? This always happens. Woe is me. I didn't deserve this, right? We have programs already in us that activate anytime the victim archetype is triggered. Or why did he treat me this way? Why did he speak to me that way? Why can I get love this way, and all this other stuff that comes up, right? The triggered victim archetype. And so earlier this week, I was processing something very heavy An old wound. I mean, very old. Many, like, I think, yeah, 30 years. Yeah, because I'll be 37 soon. So I was about 7 or 8 years old. So about 30 years ago. And mind you, this little story I'm going to share with you, on the grand scheme of things, if you compare it to much bigger issues that I've faced in my life, or that you faced in your life, or that the world faces on a day-to-day basis, you'd scoff at it. You'd be like, really? That was it? That was the wound? But the shadow, it doesn't matter. With shadow work, the most important thing is when we are identifying what these wounds are. And it is a mother wound. This was a mother wound. So I was about 7 years old, and this memory came up so strongly, due to it being the full moon, the week of the full moon, right? And so everything's amplified during full moon. And then we also had a couple months ago the big, I think 2 big eclipses that will, are still in effect until like the next 3 or 4 months from now. So all of this is going on, right? And I had a wound that popped up because I had a triggering experience with another person that triggered this really old wound, this really old memory. I was 7 years old in grade school and in the 90s, and I've shared on this channel that I grew up in as a Muslim in America, okay? And during that time, in the late 90s, leading up to 9/11, it was Muslims were not they were tolerated, I think, before then, but when Desert Storm kicked off and then things began to escalate and then 9/11 happened, all bets are off. And how people perceived Middle Eastern culture, Middle Easterners, any Middle Eastern tradition and religion like Islam, you're the enemy. You're the worst thing in the world, okay? Kind of like how they treated the Japs and then Japanese and the Russians in the 80s, right? Japanese in the 40s and Russians in the, the Cold War and everything. And people were just like, oh, communists, right? Well, that's, kind of how I was treated. So I remember it was my 7th or 8th birthday, and my mother invited these 2 girls to my seventh birthday party. And here's the thing, like Muslims, we don't, growing up, you don't celebrate holidays, you don't celebrate, things like of that nature. Pagan holidays and Christmas and all that other stuff. We just don't, not in that faith, not in Islam. But birthdays were kind of like celebrated. I guess they were deemed acceptable. But she invited these 2 young girls, Danielle and Gabrielle, and they enjoyed themselves. It was an awesome party. My mom's not a cook, but she made the best cake in the world. It was great. We had a good time. After the party, I continued to hang out with these young ladies. And then one fine morning, I walk in for breakfast and I sit where I would always sit. And I sat down and they both looked very off. Like they looked very sad. And I said, hey guys, what's up? And one of them said, we can't hang out with you anymore because you're a Muslim and you wear that thing on your head, they said. And my 7-year-old self was so crushed, okay? Now, disclaimer here, I've had way worse happen to me in my life that I will obviously keep private, but I'm just sharing this as just a solid example of how wounds follow you, right? They literally follow you until it's dealt with, and you get triggered over and over and over until it's dealt with. And so let's get back to the story. So I'm sitting there and they're like, yeah, we can't be friends with you anymore because of basically your religion. They get up and move to the other side of the breakfast room, and I'm crushed. I mean, I start crying to myself. Like it was such a deep blow for my little 7-year-old self, and I just melt, and I just put my head in my hands or my arms, and I'm just so sad. I think I went home and told my stepdad about it, but it just really rocked me to the core. And that was a core memory. And a core memory, I believe psychologically, are the ones that you don't forget. You don't forget. I mean, it could be a fantastic, happy moment or really traumatic moment. You do not forget your core memories, all right? And how it made you feel. And so that just stuck with me for so long. And all throughout my life, yes, I've been triggered all the time, but I want to talk about what that wound was specifically. That wound was rejection. I was rejected, okay? Now, in a 7-year-old's world, being denied and rejected by your friends it's a blow, right? When you're a little kid, you don't fully comprehend things anyway, because your world, how you perceive the world, is magical, and everything is flowing and everything's happy, and it doesn't, you learn that it doesn't always work like that. So there's that seed of rejection that was planted in that moment, right? And then you have abandonment. So rejection gives birth to that feeling of abandonment. And then with abandonment, then you begin to feel neglected. Now, from that moment, and maybe that's my earliest moment. That probably wasn't the first time I've ever been rejected, but that's the earliest moment I can remember with precise, like with accuracy, right? A real solid memory of mine. And so continuing moving forward, turned another decade, 17. By 17 years old, I know what rejection feels like. I know what abandonment feels like. I know what emotional neglect feels like. By 27, I know what it feels like. But I never had the tools to deal with my rejection and my abandonment issues and my emotional neglect. I learned how to ignore it. I told my inner child, hey, I'm not strong enough to deal with this, to fix this. So what we're going to do, it's almost like I made a deal with my inner child. I said, what we're going to do is, if there's an opportunity, if there's a person out there, a friend or a lover or a job out there that can fill that void for us, we'll be okay. And for the next 30 years, right? That's what I did. And this was so nefarious, so sneaky, so dark, so subdued. I didn't know what was happening. I just didn't understand why I kept attracting people who would reject me, abandon me, and neglect me. Why? And the more over time, year after year after year, would turn into a decade, and another decade, and another decade. I'm like, what the hell am I doing wrong? What am I doing wrong? The more because I would tell myself, like, I'm doing all this inner work, I'm doing everything, I'm showing up for these people, I'm showing up for them, I'm showing them how much I'm my value and my worth, and I'm still getting pushed out. I'm still getting treated like shit, right? And I've been on this self-responsibility and accountability kick for a few years now, right? So even with that, I'm like, what is going on? I'm taking accountability for myself. And it didn't dawn on me until recently. That seed, I finally started asking myself the right questions and allowing the real emotion to come up, and to allow my inner child to speak and say what she needed to say. And she said, you've attracted these frequencies, the frequency of rejection and the frequency of abandonment and the frequency of emotional neglect, because that's what you've done to me. Right? Now, how does this tie into the mother wound? Because for me, in my personal journey, a mother wound for me is emotional neglect, right? Just, it is what it is. That's the type of wound that I have with my mother, that's been passed down from her mother, and then probably from the mother that came before her. And it's manifested in this way. And I love my mother. She is queen. She is a goddess. She gave birth to me. I have no disrespect. I held no bitterness or resentment towards that at all. She's aware of it. You know, I never thought she would ever speak, hey, I didn't show up for you in this way. But she did, a few years ago, actually. So but now I take full accountability for that. I'm not going to blame my mother for that. I acknowledge what she couldn't do. Now it's up to me to heal that. The frequencies of our wounds, they're like a SOS, okay, to people that will mirror that back to us. If I broke down the type of people I've attracted into my space, holy crap. You'd be like, girl, you know your worth, right? Ugh. Like, I see this. Why? Right? And it was the frequencies I was carrying within myself that would perpetuate a certain kind of suffering, a certain experiences. And now that I'm working with my shadow aspect of my consciousness, now I'm definitely aware, like, no, I had this specific experience because these are the specific frequencies that I have been emitting out into the world, into my reality, that I get like attracts like, and that's what I've attracted. It's so easy to blame someone else who has broken your heart, right? It's so easy to do that, but we break our heart first. We do a lot more than what we think. We break our own heart first before we ever get our heart broken. I know it's kind of hard to swallow because, you know, you get cheated on, or someone lies to you, or someone dumps you, or someone discards you, or someone does the bait and switch, you know, someone stabs you in the back, someone plays with you, the yo-yo, breadcrumbs you. It's so easy, right, to say, oh, look at what they've done. Oh, me, oh my gosh. Look at how they've wronged me. It's so easy to do that. It's much harder to say, no, I broke my heart. How did I break my heart? By self-rejection, self-abandonment, or emotional neglect of the self. My inner child's been screaming at me. It's like, she's like, okay, hey, shadow self, can you help me? Because I can't get her attention. And so the shadow will then start to emit the frequencies, these very low vibrational frequencies, out into the world. And, oh, you meet somebody and you think you're in love. You think this is it, right? Because you don't have that type of awareness yet of your own shadow. Your shadow is like, oh, you're going to learn this time. You think this is love, huh? Oh, you're going to love yourself, all right. You're going to learn how to love yourself after this experience. That's what happens. It's very, very difficult. Like, if a lot of people, when you're ready, right? When you're ready to face yourself and to work with your shadow, it's jarring. It's jarring. It challenges how you see yourself. It really does. Like, there are some things about myself that I have overestimated of how strong I can be. There are parts of myself that are weak or have been weakened over the years. There are parts of myself I have neglected there are parts of myself that I've underestimated my strength. I underestimate at like, it's so mind-boggling, and I'm getting closer to the age of 40, which is beautiful and honorable. I mean, I don't have any gray hair, gray hair yet. You know, some people start graying in their late 30s, but it's a gift to be alive. But it's so fascinating when you start to really do the work. Let's talk about the sins of the father. Now, the wounds of the mother, that deals with, I feel like, a deep your emotional body, right? Because you have that feminine energy that is, to me, the emotional body is the womb. It's feeling, it's intuition, it's sentience. And if you have so many wounds, you carry the wounds of the mother, you carry the frequencies that don't belong to you, or that you've been chosen to alchemize, right? Like right now I'm studying how do I activate the opposite of the frequency of rejection, abandonment, and emotional neglect, right? How do I activate that within myself? Put that into practice daily, being present with it, playing around with that energy, alchemizing that energy. But the sins of the father are frequencies that really attack your willpower, your drive, your ambition, the courage it takes to build the life that you desire. Sins of the father are, I believe, they're addictions. So like truly harming yourself, like really harming yourself, like addictions, sex addiction, drug addiction, food addictions, gambling, things that your pleasure centers are compromised, right? It's very parasitic. Like the only way for you to function correctly is to feed this energy parasite, okay? And a lot of the time, you have generational curses like alcoholism and drug addiction, and these are, to me, they're generational curses, right? They're generational curses, and they're genetic. I mean, you can be genetically predisposed to drug addiction and to certain addictions. And so, in my family, I mean, on my father's side, a lot of it's very, very heavy with addictions and all that other stuff, which the task in my life has been to alchemize the sins of the father out of my being and to transmute that into a completely different frequency. But it ties into financial abundance. It ties into what you're able to receive in your life. When you don't address the sins of the father, when you don't address the frequencies that keep you from building. So you have sabotage, right? We sabotage our goals. We sabotage our finances. We sabotage our health. We sabotage taking risks when we need to, or staying steady and grounded when we need to. It's all, I'm moving from the season of awareness now into the state of being. And with the state of being, we're being asked to play around with the frequencies that we carry and ask ourselves, like, and a lot of the time we're carrying frequencies that don't belong to us. And when you release the frequencies that don't belong to you, you honor what you do carry, and you learn how to play with your own energy. You learn how to manipulate your own energy. You no longer have the time to manipulate other people's energies anymore. I'm an alchemist, but only for my energy. I'm not taking on the energy of my mom and or my father. I don't need to do that anymore. I don't need to alchemize anything other than myself. I don't need to alchemize the energies of ex-lovers or ex-friendships. I don't need that. Or my siblings, right? I don't need to do that. That's not my duty. That's not my job. And when we make it our job, when we make it our focal point, your shadow will continue to attract. You could be a great person. You can be damn near perfect. Awesome. People love you. They love being around you. You make them smile. You make them feel good. You're doing good things in the world, and you still attract trash. You still attract people and individuals and frequencies into your life that will then be they'll be your karmic teacher to get you to wake up. And I had a recent past experience as of late where I'll say this person was a teacher. He was teaching me something, mirroring something back to me that I needed to realize and to really see it for what it was. And I wasn't. And now I see it. I see it for what it was and what it was doing to me. Why I kept attracting just things that are way below what I am worth and what I deserve. Things that I bring so much to the table, and these energies wouldn't bring anything. Nothing. Think of a potluck. I would bring so much food. They'd be stuffed and well fed, and then I'd be starving. Sitting at a table with so much food, but starving. And that was because my shadow self was trying to tell me, hey, this person's in your space. This experience is in your space because I'm needing you right now. A lot of our negative energies negative experiences that we have in our lives, they usually come from that silent scream from within us. They're not negative. They are here to wake you up. So the last experience I had with an individual, he was a catalyst for change, spiritual catalyst for me. I have nothing but gratitude. At this point, every day, it's like, man, whew, close. That was close. Thank you. Thank you, thank you. Because I wouldn't be able to see and heal and alchemize these lower frequencies within myself that I've been carrying for 30 plus years, 35 plus years. And now I'm finally seeing, I'm like, okay, now I have something to work with. Because gosh, since I think 2016, I've been, for the past 9 years of my life, I've been on like this spiritual journey and trying to find what else, what is there to heal? What is there to heal? What's going on? I'm doing all this meditating and chanting and praying and meditating and sitting in silence and fasting and doing all these beautiful, wonderful, high frequency things, but I would still attract some BS in my life. People who would waste my time. Individuals who just want to suck up as much energy as they possibly could, and they feel great, and I'm depleted, or I feel off and ungrounded and imbalanced. They were subtracting from me, not adding anything. And not just relationships, jobs as well, right? And I'm so grateful about this. So I leave you with this. You really ask yourself, when you're doing this shadow work with the sins of the father and the wounds of the mother, identifying what these are within you, and then begin to play with them, manipulate them. Sit down, journal about it. What areas do I feel rejected from the world? In what areas do I feel rejected from my family? And what areas do I feel rejected from my siblings or my parents or my best friends or lovers? And what areas have I felt what areas have I abandoned myself? I'll show you something. I keep journals, okay? I keep journals. I write in them. And I've kept record for 20 something years, and then I had a whole cycle of books about that big, and I pitched them all when I was 30, after immense spiritual work. I threw them all out. Do I kind of wish I still had them? Yeah. I do, because if that would have been incredibly helpful, because that's how I feel like you can organically determine your future, just by keeping track of your life, because things continue. The unlearned lessons will always loop. They will always loop over and over and over again. Nothing is new under the sun. So I leave you here. I know it's a bit longer than usual, 30 minutes. But yes, begin to identify the lower energy frequencies that you carry. And you need to ask if they're your own, if this is passed down from the mother and the father. Where is it coming from? Where is it coming from? Where is it stemming from? Why is it there, right? And what other ways have I emotionally neglected myself? Because it's getting so crystal clear now, to the point where if a person is mistreating me, or I feel wronged by a person, they're doing in some way what I'm doing, what I've done to myself, or I'm continuing to do. That's why I've allowed them into my life. It's backwards. It sounds nuts, doesn't it? But it's like, why is this person like, why is this person treating me like crap? How come they communicate like this? How come they ignore me this way? How come they did? You have to stop and ask, what ways have you treated yourself that way? In what ways have you stopped communicating with the self? Have you ignored yourself? Have you neglected yourself? How you've abandoned yourself? Because that's what you're going to attract every single time. And the moment that you begin to manipulate those energies and frequencies to a more neutralized state, or a much higher state, or vibration, those people, I'll tell you what's going to happen to those people, or those individuals, those energies that come into your life. One or two things are going to happen. Either they are going to match and evolve and expand, or they're going to fall off like they never existed and you never met them. Meaning, you're no longer stooping down low to scoop them up with you. Many, 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 many spiritual, sensitive, good people do this, where they love an individual so much so that they will lower themselves to drag the other one up, all the while they're losing themselves. Okay? So one or two things will happen. The person or the individual or group, okay, in family dynamics as well, but also in private and personal romantic relationships with others, they won't have a choice. No, I should say they do. No, they do have a choice. I misspoke. They do have a choice. They can choose to expand and evolve, okay, and alchemize those frequencies that they have that attracted both of you, right? Because I was carrying this neglect, rejection, or emotional neglect, rejection, and abandonment, and this individual we were a match, right? And whether that other person is aware of that, it doesn't matter. We were a match. And then there was the experience, and the experience wasn't great, okay? It wasn't. But then something in me shifted. So I'm like, I am so tired. You get so exhausted and tired of having that energy loop over and over and over again. You get so exhausted that you just break out. You want to break free. And finally, it's that spiritual exhaustion, that spiritual hunger for something different, something more loving, something better for you, that you break out of the loop. And then that person's just there. And they can choose to also evolve and to alchemize those frequencies, those lower frequencies, or they just perish. Like it's crazy how the people come in and out of your life where at the time the connection's so substantial and so important, and then they're no longer there. Like when I was, I'm 36 now. When I was 26, 22, I thought the people I were friends with and I had a close bond with, or a lover I was close with, and I thought that we would just be, it was so solid. But no, frequencies shift and change. And it's our choice to alchemize those frequencies or stay stagnant in the energy loop and keep going over and over and over. So yeah, I'll get more into the energy loops again in another video, but I really want to just to focus in on the sins of the father and wounds of the mother and the frequencies of those things that we tend to carry and that we don't know that are there. We don't know, like we're self-aware, but we're like, okay, what's the next step? Like, why am I keep attracting? Use the people out in your reality as a compass, especially if you have emotional, intimate, mental, psychological, spiritual connection with friends, lovers, family members, co-workers. They are mirroring things back to you, and you have to say and check in, are these frequencies what is this saying about the frequencies I'm carrying within myself? Okay, that's what I'm asking you guys to look into. By choice, is your choice or not, but I just wanted to share that with you. I didn't want this to go on too long. I don't like making it super long, but thank you so much for tuning in, and I'll see you soon. Goodbye.